Hi, I'm Julia, and welcome to the Writer's Room. Today, I'm going solo at this because my cameraman slash director slash husband is hiking the Appalachian Trail. So, there may be a few mistakes here and there. It's only because I'm trying to do this myself. Today I have a story for you that I wrote just a few days ago and actually completed just about an hour ago. It's a nonfiction story based entirely in truth. My truth, my 9-year-old self as I experienced it. Something very profound and kind of scary actually that I don't want to give too much away, but this is for you, Dad. It's called The Mountain and the Mare. The fall air is crisp and cold and smells of overripe apples that have been fermenting on heaped piles from barren trees, spilling like honey. Rotting away on this dry and sunny day in October of 1978, in a small New England town up in hills and far, far, far away from city life out beyond the pines and down to the valley. The rumbling yellow school bus rounds the bend, creaking on its old frame, bumping over rocks and small stones on this dirt road. I stand waiting, clad in my oversized red jacket and blue jeans. Today I have forgotten to take off my farm boots and replace them with my school shoes, but here I stand waiting. I see it coming now, and it lurches down the steep hill with brakes that squeak and grind as it comes rattling to a halt just a few feet in front of me. The bus driver pulls a lever and the doors fold open with a slow hiss, then a snap. I jump on. Hurriedly pick a seat. I'm alone here, save for the bus driver who's having her morning smoke. My fellow students have the option to either get on the bus before picking me up in what is now known as Mare Hollow, or the very bottom of the mountain, or to wait till the old yellow bus has already picked me up. Today I'm alone, as the other students pick the latter. The bus rolls down the dirt road past my house hidden beyond the trees and beyond the fields in my view of the barns with all its farm animals that lays about on this crisp autumn morning. The old bus makes a difficult but necessary 3-point turn on the narrow dirt road because this is the end of the line, the end of the road down in the secret valley that lies at the bottom of a craggy old mountain. The driver makes her turns with ease and expertise as she has driven this route to my house for some time now. As she readies the cranky old bus to begin by bringing it up to speed to match the far-reaching and very steep hill it must climb to get out of here into school some 8 miles away. With the pedal to the metal, we are off like a cannon. We go up the hill like a champion and on further still to pick up everyone else and get on with another day of learning. 2 old buses pull into center school. They come from each side of the widespread hill town. Hard to imagine nowadays. But the entire 1st through 6th grade fits into these 2 buses. Hard to imagine as well that such a place could exist decades in old wooded hills so far away from homes where fires burned to warm their houses and live simple lives of disconnect and truly and peacefully existed. That was what it was like back in 1978. But here lies in story of truth how I came to be in a small town, in a small school with only 13 students in 4th grade. The buses are now parked on the cracked and slightly heaved blacktop. Kids begin to file off to here and there like ants on a mission to save its colonies. The schoolyard is beginning to fill up in a matter of minutes. There is a lot of yelling and running about. The bell rings for the day to start at 9 a.m. The day moves on. I sit in the front row of class directly in front of Mrs. Piper. I am feeling displaced and not particularly happy about it. You see, I'm a talker. I talk morning, noon, and night. Mrs. Piper has had enough of chiding me to stop talking and being disruptive during class. So here I sit, writing on my parched yellow lined paper, I will not talk in class. On every line it was demanding space. Why can't I just be good and quiet? Why? What's wrong with me? I just can't seem to help it. When something interesting or funny comes to mind, I feel compelled to share it. Mrs. Piper doesn't think so, though. She says, "Save it for recess, Julia. Save it for after school." I think she just doesn't get it where I live. I live so very far away from here, from my friends. No one wants to come and play at my house. Their parents say, "It's too far. It's too deep back in the woods near that scary-looking mountain." I find myself thinking about my animal friends that live in the big barns and fields around my house. They listen to me. They care. I'm always hopeful that one magically will talk back to me one day. Well, that never happens, of course. Breaking my wandering thoughts as the day is nearing the end and the 3 o'clock bell is ticking closer. Mrs. Piper says it's free time, but not for you, Julia. You need to finish your assignment. The life-changing bell rings and releases us to the veil of deep country life, but here I sit writing and writing. I want to be with my friends, shuffling and talking in small groups, whispering of what weekend plans are, where they will go, plans for city trips or grocery shopping with mothers. So it goes, my punishment is to silence me. Make me have some control. I have become lost in my self-pity. I hear a symphony of scuttling, squeaky tennis shoes on the linoleum floor, desks and chairs being pushed out of the way with an urgency to match. All my classmates have perched themselves at the largely, nearly floor-to-ceiling windows that look out onto the schoolyard in buses. The buses sit waiting for the final release of the day. "There's a man on a horse," calls out Linda. Another student yells out, "Julia, I think it's your father." I look over to the kids and out to the window to see a young man in his late 20s perched atop a speckled brown and white horse. "That is my father," I say. Excitement is brewing in the small class. There are giggles and oohs and ahs and oh wows heard. They were enjoying the new, something so different to happen at school. So different to happen at school at the end of the day at this small town, so very far away. As busy cities such as Northampton or Amherst seem so far away. "Julia, I guess you won't be riding the bus today," says Linda. I smile and respond to Linda, "Nope, not today." A few kids laugh and poke fun at the thought of riding a horse home. Perhaps in the 1870s it would be common, of course, to ride a horse from school. But here we are in 1978, and I'll tell you, I think it's great. The bell rings. I lay my almost complete sheet of paper-filled lines of teacher-bearing redemption on Mrs. Piper's desk. I quickly rummage through my own desk and find 2 books I must take home. One, The Adventures of Hippy Longstockings. The other, a short biography of Abraham Lincoln, who I am fascinated by these days. The room is filled with chatter and a joy filled because they know they're about to leave out the door and down the hall to the front doors, which are held open by 2 teachers. We file out in a disorganized fashion and head for the 2 buses waiting for our arrival. Save me, Julia, of Morin Hollow, the girl who lives at the foot of a giant mountain so far away from school in a more uncivilized world. I walk to my father, who greets me with a fine hello. He dismounts off the back of his brown and white speckled Appaloosa Cinnamon. I hand him my 2 coveted books, which he places in a small bag attached to Cinnamon's saddle. My father picks me up as I am feather light and small as a squirrel. And he places me behind the saddle on Cinnamon's ample and silken soft rump. I feel quite comfortable and comforted, as she is kind and a gentle mare. She is very large, 16 hands or so, with deep amber eyes that have confidence of the strongest of men. She is my father's horse. This is why I believe she is so strong and so confident. She is like a reflection into my father's soul. At this time, the 2 old yellow buses have fired up again. They begin to amble off into the way from the old center school and in an old Massachusetts hill town far away from the cities below. The hum of the bus engines fade off and they are out of sight. My father lifts himself up and places himself expertly in the saddle in front of me, careful not to knock me back. Soon we are off, clip-clopping our way over the cracked and slightly heaved and black top and onto the soft side of the road. All that I can hear is the creaking of the saddle as Cinnamon's big hips move side to side with each legged stride. We don't talk much for a while. We just drink it in, all the birds singing and chirping in the mid-afternoon light. I look down and watch the careful hoof steps of Cinnamon. I see leaves and sticks, a bug here or there. I've become tired as the ride becomes almost hypnotic and quieting to my mind. I lean forward and lay my head on my father's back and close my eyes for a little while. It's so nice to be here in this space and time. How lucky I am. The afternoon light is fading. The forest colors take on shadows that play and dance on rocks under the trees' light. The wind makes the colorful leaves of red and orange and browns jump into little spiraling whirlwinds that bounce around the forest floor. We move through at a nice rocking pace, always side to side. My father has now begun to move Cinnamon off of the gravelly road and into the woods and onto an old dirt road called Old King's Highway Road, a long, often forgotten but rarely used road that used to be one of the main ways to go from Boston to the mountains of the Berkshires and even all the way to Albany, New York. It is narrow, softly packed dirt that curves and winds through the very old and dense woods. It has steep hills to climb, and guardrail-less cliffs, remember that hang at the road's edge. Cars would find it difficult to use. Buses surely would not. But we would ride on, unencumbered by anything, with us perched atop this loving and peaceful horse. I do believe Cinnamon also enjoyed our journey back home to the farm and the life that we lived as a group, but as one too. We were more than halfway home on this beautiful autumn day in October of 1978, peacefully moving and being content with life, when suddenly a car engine ignites with a roar and defiance of a rebellion. We couldn't see the car, but it was dangerously close by. Too close. Just to our immediate right, lurching from the side of a very large stack of cut timber logs, a black car screeches its tires, its engine roars, a roar so loud it hurts my ears. The car speeds toward us, its back tires sliding sideways in the soft dirt, plumes of dust spit out from each side. This is a true story, guys. I tense up and grab the back of the saddle with fright. Cinnamon knew the steep and rocky embankment was there next to her, my father too. I didn't see it, but there we were. At this moment, Cinnamon sidesteps to move away from the demonizing car, and that sidestep, she went down the loose embankment, collapsed, and she begins to slide backwards down the gravel, dirt, and rocks, nearly entirely at a straight up and down angle. I hear my father yell, "Hold on!" I feel my legs go back behind me, but I am held up by the back of Cinnamon's powerful legs. My tiny hands gripped like a vice to the saddleback, my face pressed into the love of her, strong in her soft body. I feel her throughout my entire torso. Even her tail is touching me, holding me. We slide down the bank, 5, 10, 25 feet down, as if we were on a slide in some city park. It appears as if Cinnamon's hooves are pressing hard like you would on a brake pedal, forcing a stop, which she does. And as quick as we went down, she digs in, and boundlessly and bravely she brings us back up to the top of the road. And just like that, we were safe. We lived. We were unscathed and uninjured, my father and I. Since I am hanging there off of Cinnamon's back legs, cleaved to the saddle with my tiny little hands, I realize I can let go. And I do, and I land smartly on my feet. My father dismounts at the same time. I don't remember the words we spoke to each other that day in the middle of the woods, more than halfway home, back in 1978, but I do remember this. Cinnamon bends her neck upwards and lets out a high, whinnying bellow. She gives herself a nice shake like a dog that's been out in the rain. She gives a shudder and peacefully relaxes as she once was. My father lifts each foot and checks for any cuts or injuries. He looks up and down each of her legs and finds only a very small scratch. My father picks me up, places me in my spot on Cinnamon's ample rump, mounts up himself, and we move on as we know and have always known. Trust is love. He says, let's go home, and we do. Very personal story to read to you today, but I thought, it's really easy to make stuff up. Writers are the best liars, by the way. But this, word for word, is exactly how I remember it as a 9-year-old. And the experience that we had when my father picked me up from school and we rode home. Strangely enough, it never really scared me enough to think it was like a traumatic event. I didn't see it as a traumatic event. I really saw it as, well, that happened and here we are. And she was a very special horse. She definitely saved us that day. How she didn't falter and slide and roll over on us, or I didn't let go of the saddle and get trampled under her feet, is just her will. Her will. It may have been my will to hold on, but it was her will to pull us back up on the road and say, hey, I got this. Let's go home. Thank you for listening today. Again, if there's any questions. Oh, I did have one question from Alyssa from Philadelphia last week, and she asked about the last story I wrote. I believe it was The Walk, and when and how I put it together. Some of them I write a really long time ago. This story that I just wrote you about the mountain and the mare, I just started writing on Friday, and I just finished it like an hour ago. But anyways, leave your name, where you're from, and I'd happily answer any questions that you have. And remember to always have good thoughts and say good words and do good deeds. Thanks so much.